Hey everyone, welcome to Parker Live. Uh, my name is Jacob Rhodes. I'm the Senior Vice President of Marketing at Parker. And just want to thank you guys for joining us. We got a really good episode today. Again, our goal at Parker Live is just a short 15 to 20 minute broadcast with the goal of kind of bringing in some goodness into the world, and especially for those working at home, give you a little break and education. So today, speaking of education, we have David Paulson. David is a financial advisor with Northwestern Mutual, and he's been good enough to join us here to talk about some budgeting and finance basics. So thanks a lot, David. Welcome aboard.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jacob.
Yeah, no problem. So I guess for the audience, could you introduce yourself and maybe talk a little bit about your background?
Yeah, for sure. Like Jacob said, I'm a financial advisor with Northwestern Mutual. My goal is to help my clients make smart financial decisions and really put them in a spot where they're more confident in their financial lives. My background, so I actually used to play in the NFL for a few years and made the transition after that and got into the banking world. I worked for BECU, the credit union, and helped people on open accounts and do all that kind of loan side of things. And then I made the transition over into the financial advising world, where it's a little more comprehensive and helping people in all areas with their financial lives. I do have a degree in business and a master's in business. Not something you have to get into this role or this world, but I find it valuable as well.
So was this always an interest of yours for like financing, or is this something that you picked up in terms of budgeting and financial planning?
Yeah, so actually when I went to college, I thought I was going to go into more of kind of the marketing role, but I've always been kind of a nerd when it comes to personal finance, reading a lot of books on it. I guess right here on my desk, I have a lot of books right now I'm reading, but even in college, I really dove into that avenue to try to learn more about it. And as I've learned more, it's just driven me to go down this path. Also, playing in the NFL and seeing how some people handle their money at the high end, and then working at the credit union and seeing people all different ranges of incomes and how they handle their money, pushed me into this field and really wanting to help people at all levels put together a financial plan and really help them just improve their financial lives.
That's great. So when we were talking earlier, one of the things we mentioned was, we deal a lot with our contractors who may be working contracts as short as a month to 6 months and varying degrees of pay and levels. So this is going to be interesting and I think important skills for people to pick up. So with that note, maybe we can start with the basics. So what are some things, the basic things that some people can start doing right now if they haven't done it?
Yeah, I think the important, place to start with any kind of financial plan or trying to get in a better position is getting an understanding of where you're currently at. So first step, I think, is really to go back through and see where you're spending your money. So look to see, take the last month of statement, or what if you use an online system, and go back through and see where your money's going. See, how much you're paying towards rent, towards insurance, groceries, and then all your other things, your subscription services and going out to eat and all those things, and really get an idea of where your money's going out. And then taking a step back and seeing if that matches up with what your values are and what your goals are, seeing if there's anything that maybe you're spending money on that you shouldn't be, or it doesn't align with your values. A lot of times with my clients, first thing I have them do is go through a budget sheet, and it kind of breaks it down into your essentials, your discretionary, and then you're going towards goals or savings. So I think those essentials are kind of things that aren't going to change for you. Your rent and insurance, and no matter what, you're going to have to pay those. Get an idea what that is, and then looking at those discretionary expenses is kind of like the things that you could cut back on. And that's kind of the first step, I think, is really getting an understanding of where you're at and see if that aligns where you want to go. And then keeping that in mind, I think the next step is building up that emergency savings. With what's been going on the last few months, I think it's really shown the importance of having that emergency savings in place. People being out of work that didn't think they'd ever be laid off or out of work, or situations like that. So what I usually recommend is 3 to 6 months of your expenses is ideal. Obviously, if you're not there yet, I think getting at least 1 month in place gets you in a better situation to be able to take care of an emergency that comes up, something breaks at your house, car breaks down, or if you're out of work and you're, looking for that next job.
Okay. And when you're talking about the 1 month, is that the total based off of all the expenses they have, or are there certain segments that they should have for that month?
I think bare minimum having those essential expenses covered, because you want to be able to cover those, the rent, the mortgage, anything that you're going to have to pay no matter what. We can always cut back on those discretionary expenses if we really had to, stop going out to eat, stop traveling, doing things like that. But, those essential expenses are going to come out no matter what. So at least having that covered is really important.
Okay. So if someone's looking at their budget, they want to build an emergency fund, they want to find those areas. What are some places besides just the obvious discretionary income or discretionary spending rather? Where are some good places that people can find ways to save money?
Yeah, great question. So what I've noticed a lot is with all these great subscription services like Netflix and Hulu, and you get some people buy those boxes that come every month, all these different services that you sign up for, music and reading. What I've been telling my clients to do is go back through and really analyze, are you using all these services that you've signed up for? And a lot of times with those monthly things, you'll be paying for 6 months to a year and not even realize you haven't even used it. So that's one spot I like to look at. Other things you can take a look at are, are you paying for a higher cable bill than really what you're using or need, or internet, cell phone packages, or do you have the unlimited, and do you really need that? And then the other area is kind of insurance side of things. So your auto insurance, when's the last time you shopped that around? Also, life insurance, if you have it, is there a way to save there? All of those areas are other places that you can shop it around and really just cost compare and see if there's a way you can save monthly on those too.
Right. That just reminded me of groups and organizations. So a lot of people don't realize their memberships to groups like Costco or AAA come with services like that. And so we actually did our auto insurance through Costco of all places, and we call them every year, and they usually are able to find cheaper and cheaper plans each year. So that's a really good idea in terms of looking at places to find money as well. Okay, so someone's kind of cut back. They found these places to save money. They want to build that emergency fund up. So how do you build a budget? Like what is it essentially, and how should someone start?
Yeah, so to start a budget, I think the first step is knowing where you're at. Like I said, once you got that figured out, and you want to figure out how to put $100 a month towards your emergency savings or whatever your goal is, I think the key is to set that up to where it's automatic, so you're not having to think about it every month. So I always recommend setting up a separate savings, or sometimes even opening an account separate from your other accounts, so it's a little bit harder to get to, and setting up an automatic transfer to that so that it comes out as soon as you get paid. Pay yourself first is like the way I like to think about it. The more automatic you can make it, the easier it is. Then the next step with the budgeting is, a couple ways you could do it. One, you can really dive in and figure out where you can save on each element in your budget. The other way that a lot of clients of mine like to do is basically break it down to that essential and discretionary. And some of them will even open up 2 checking accounts, have one for their essential expenses. As soon as you get paid, you put that, let's call it $2,000 that's going towards essential expenses. That's going to pay for the mortgage, for the insurance, all of that. The rest of your income will go into that discretionary part of the bucket. And then now you know how much you have to spend on the fun stuff. And you can just track that bucket of money. And when you run out, you're out of your fun money. So that's the other way you can kind of go about it. But definitely, keeping the other ways to dive deeper into where you're spending your money and trying to make monthly goals of what you should be spending. And there's a lot of, ways that can help you with this. I don't know, mint.com has like an app you could use, Capital. There's a lot of different technology you can use that track those budgets for you. And we'll send you an alert and let you know that you're over budget for the month and kind of dial back somewhere else or, really kind of try to keep you on track.
Okay. So we're talking savings, we're talking discretionary, the monthly expenses that you have to pay. What about retirement planning?
Yeah, retirement planning is really important. I've never really sat down with anybody that wants to work their entire life. So I think it's really important to get started. And if you know the power of compounding, the earlier you get started, the better. And if you have access to a 401k at work, it's a great place to start, especially if they're going to give you a match. So if they give you a match, I always tell people, take advantage of that. It's like getting free money. If you don't have opportunity to take advantage of a 401k, there's a lot of other options. I like, the IRAs are, so you can do a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA. Typically, I like the Roth because it's going to be tax-free income in retirement.
So David, could you talk a little bit about Roth versus traditional?
Yeah, so the difference is really when you get taxed on those. So in a traditional, you're going to get the tax break today. That money is going to grow tax deferred, so you're not paying taxes out every year. But when you get to, let's say, 60, 65 and start pulling money out of that account, that's when the government wants their piece of that money. So they're going to start taxing you at your income level for that money. The Roth is going to work exactly the opposite of that. So today you're not getting any tax break on it, and then it's still going to grow tax-free. And when you get to retirement, you start pulling that money, it's all tax-free because you already paid the taxes on it. So it's really about paying taxes now versus later. Nobody knows where the tax rates are going to go in the future, but I like at least having a diversification, having a little bit of both, or having that tax-free. That way you don't have to pay the taxes in the future.
Well, and I think it's safer to assume that someone just starting out their career, like out of college, their tax bracket ostensibly will be lower than what they pay by the time they're ready to retire. So that's a good strategy as well.
For sure. That's the other piece to look at is what they're making now and what they're currently taxed at, and kind of compare that to projection of what you'll be paying in the future. And typically when you're starting out, you're going to be making less in a lower tax bracket. So it's a great opportunity to, stash money away and pay taxes at the lower rate.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you mentioned Roth. Anything else?
There's the traditional, there's the Roth. If you're self-employed, there's a lot of other options. But the other thing you could do is put money away outside of those accounts. You're just not getting the tax break. So in like a taxable account, you still can invest like you can in the other buckets, but you're not getting the tax break. The advantage there is you can have access to it earlier, or it's not in a retirement account, but you're losing some of those tax breaks on it.
Okay. Let me throw you a quick curveball. Let's just pop up, David. If someone is getting these incomes, but there's a lot of press lately generated on instant investment tools like Robinhood. There's always, our peers and friends talk about Bitcoin. Like, what's your opinion about direct investing in the stock market right now or Bitcoin right now for someone just starting? Is that a wise way to spend their money, or do you still think putting that into a retirement account is the better way to go?
My take on this is I think about it in kind of two different ways. I think about it as, let's put a plan together. Let's figure out what your goal is for retirement, and let's put that money away for your retirement and really your financial plan. I have clients that are still interested in investing in individual stocks and Bitcoin. And I kind of think of that as more like speculation than investing. It's kind of having fun, kind of a gamble. And I kind of say, hey, if you want to do that as, your side money or kind of your fun money, that's fine. We just won't account for that in your plan. But when we're thinking about trying to reach your goals of retirement or your other goals of buying a house or whatever those are, I like to make that a little more part of the plan, and our philosophy is being more diversified and a little more traditional in the sense of not the Bitcoin and those kind of things. I don't have anything wrong against it, but I just don't really put it in as part of the plan. It's more of the if my clients want to have fun money on the side, that's kind of how I see it.
So it sounds like you put that under the discretionary spending then.
Pretty much. I kind of like to think about it as money that they'd be okay to lose. Don't expect to be,
Right.
if they lost it, it wouldn't impact their lives, I guess is the way I like to look at it.
So like your Vegas fund or something like that.
Yeah, very similar.
Cool. What about, are there other instruments that people can start looking at, such like life insurance policies? Do you have any opinions about those?
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about an emergency fund, kind of getting that protection side of your plan in place. I think the other two important parts of that defensive side of your plan would be getting life insurance in place, which is really just protecting anybody that relies on your income to live or to meet their future goals. So really what happens, how life insurance works, if you pass away, it's going to pay a lump sum to whoever your beneficiary is. And typically how we go about figuring out how much you need is looking at a few things. So one would be, any debts you want paid off if you weren't around to pay those down. Number two is replacing your income that other people are relying on. So if you have a spouse or kids and we need to replace that income for them to be able to maintain their lifestyle, we want to put that in place. And then another area is kind of those immediate expenses. So funeral expenses, getting an emergency fund and put in place. And then the last thing is if you do have kids and you want them to go to college, even if you're not around to fund it, we want to be able to put that in the life insurance as well. So I think it's very important to get that in place to protect your loved ones or anybody that's relying on your income if you're not there to provide. The other thing to keep in mind would be income protection or disability insurance, a lot of times what it's called. And what that is, it's protecting you and your family if you were out of work for any reason, if you got injured, if you got an illness to where you couldn't go to work and bring that paycheck in anymore. It's going to replace that and really protect what I think is your biggest asset a lot of times, especially if you're younger. If you look at how much you're going to make over the years until you retire, that's a big number. And, what are we doing to protect that income? That's what you can do with disability insurance is, put something in place to protect your future income and protect yourself and your family in case you can't go to work and bring that money in.
Sure. So we've talked a pretty broad array, but I think a really good range of things for people who are interested in getting started and learning more. So thank you. I think that's great. So David, thanks for your time. If someone's watching this and they have a few more questions, what's the best way that they can get in touch with you?
Yeah, email is really easy. So my email is david.paulson@nm.com. And feel free to reach out to me with any questions. Also, if you're interested in getting like a budget sheet like this, just to help you go over your essential expenses and discretionary and kind of figuring out where you're at, you shoot me an email just asking for that. I can shoot that over to you and really answer any other questions too. Really, my goal is to help people feel more confident about their financial lives. So if there's anything I can do to help any of you guys feel more confident and answer any questions, feel free to reach out.
Perfect. Well, we've reached about 20 minutes, David. So thank you very much. I appreciate you taking the time here.
Yeah, thanks, Jacob. It was a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, you guys have, everyone, hope you have a good day, and I'll talk to you later, David.
All right, thanks.